Call back and say, I cannot confirm anything, but he is not on the list of survivors. And she had to tell their two small children that their father would never come home from work.
Congressman Morgan McGarvey from Louisville talking about the family of Joshua Barrick, finding out that he was a victim in yesterday's mass shooting at Old National Bank. Joshua Barrick, Jim Tutt, Tommy Elliott, Juliana Farmer, and Dina Eckert, fathers, mothers, best friends, and hardworking employees of Old National Bank. The 5 people who did not make it home yesterday. We're learning more about how they impacted Louisville, touching the lives of so many whom we're hearing from tonight. Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us at 6. I'm Doug Proffitt. But first here tonight, 1 hour ago, Metro Police did release that body camera video. The camera is worn by the officers when they responded and stopped the mass shooter. From the time officers got the call to the time that the shooter was shot dead, only 9 minutes passed. The video does show the true heroism of our Metro Police officers. Shay McAllister is here breaking down that video, showing us how quickly police got inside the bank and really what they faced. Shay?
Well, Doug, it was just within 3 minutes of getting that 911 call that those officers were there on the scene. The video now revealing just how quickly and decisively officers reacted. It's also giving us our first look at the shooter inside the building. You can see him in this photo surrounded by broken glass. We now know he was waiting for the officers to show up, and when they did, he opened fire.
Stop right there. Stop. Open the trunk. 113 Baker. We're making entry from the east side at Preston and Main.
This video is from Officer Nick Wilkes' body camera. He had been on the job just a few days when he and his training officer responded to the call. In another video from Officer Corey Galloway, you can see the officers approach the building but fall back when the shooter fires more shots at them. At that point, Officer Wild is shot. You don't see that on the videos. 3 minutes after arriving, officers and the shooter exchanged gunshots, and at 8:45, the officers enter the building to confirm the shooter was down. Deputy Chief Paul Humphrey says the officers had a hard time seeing inside the building when they arrived.
When you combine that with that non-reflective glass, the sunshine, the elevated position, officers could not see inside those doors on their approach, whereas he could see out to them. And so that's why he was able to fire on them before they ever saw where he was.
LMPD also shared tonight that not a single person received additional injuries once officers arrived on scene, adding that officers' medical treatment saved lives that day. Doug?
Shay, thank you. WHS 11's Isaiah Kim Martinez and senior photojournalist Alyssa Newton are live right now on Main Street, right across from Old National Bank. Isaiah, we've also learned more about the officers who responded to the scene.
Yeah, Doug, some of the details confirmed in the news conference today. First of all, Nicholas Wilt, of course, was just on his 4th shift, we were learning, as a police officer when the madness ensued in the building behind me. But he was not alone. Officer Corey Galloway, his field training officer, actually was alongside him. Just the first couple officers were learning to make their way inside, of course, bravely, as shots continue to be fired by the shooter. Now, I do want to point your attention to what we've been seeing grow all day, and that's the memorial on the steps of Old National Bank. What started as just a few flowers has now grown to 5 white crosses set up, each with a large heart one name for each person who has lost their life in this tragedy. This was set up by the Lutheran Church Charities. This is just one example of the city trying to find answers here and share support as they continue to grieve. Charged emotions filled the mayor's gallery in downtown Louisville, those of frustration and heartache.
You may think this will never happen to you, never happen to any of your friends or loved ones. I used to think that. The sad truth is that now no one in our city, no one in our state, no one in our country has that luxury anymore.
Pleas for state and federal lawmakers to make changes.
Please, if you are a person of faith and you want to give us your thoughts and your prayers, we want them and we need them. Our community is hurting, but we need policies in place that will keep this from happening again.
Questions loom over the events that led up to the mass shooting and what unfolded inside this building. Some big takeaways tonight. Officer Corey Galloway fired the bullet that killed the shooter after the shooter took multiple lives. LMPD Interim Chief Jackie Gwynn Villaroyale confirming the suspect was a current Old National Bank employee who still had access to the bank building. She says the shooter legally purchased a semi-automatic AR-15 on April 4th from a local shop.
Targeted. He knew those individuals, of course, because he worked there.
City leaders, including Mayor Craig Greenberg, said the motive is still unclear, but we asked for clarification on one key point. We have heard reports saying that the shooter was given notice of his termination of work there. Can you confirm that?
That is not, from what I have been told from an official at the bank, that is not accurate.
Meanwhile, getting everyone's attention, the raw moment from Dr. Jason Smith, Chief Medical Officer at U of L Health, saying he's weary.
When you hear someone screaming, "Mommy," or "Daddy," it just becomes too hard day in and day out to be able to do that.
He, like many others, are also calling for action from those in power. The question so many want to know, how you can help. One way U of L Health says is to donate blood. So much of what they have on hand has been used for surgeries and procedures throughout the last 24 hours. Now, if you need help yourself when it comes to counseling, there will be a dozen churches listed later tonight that you can attend tomorrow to go ahead and talk to somebody. There's also the Muhammad Ali Center that will be hosting a community vigil tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Doug.
Isaiah, thank you very much.
Coming together and supporting one another. That's something here in Louisville I've noticed over the years, being here for many, many years, that we do pull together in a tragedy at time like this.
The memorial outside Old National Bank is growing by the hour. Kat Kidder there started this morning by laying these Easter lilies at the steps of the Old National Bank from the floral shop where he works. Although he didn't know any of the victims personally, he wanted to show his respect and give others the space to gather to try and make sense of the lives lost. We're learning more about the other lives lost, and Grace McKenna is joining us now. And you've been talking to friends and family today, Grace, of some of the victims.
Yeah, Doug, that's right. Family, friends, even the governor are speaking and remembering these community members. Their loss is one we won't forget soon, and that's in part because of the impact they left on these people's lives.
Tommy Elliott, 63, and Old National exec, one of the first names we learned, remembered by a governor grieving.
Tommy Elliott helped me build my law career.
Can we do the tag on 4, guys?
Helped me become governor. Gave me advice on being a good dad. It's one of the people I talk to most in the world, and very rarely were we talking about my job.
Joshua Barrick, 40, mourned Monday by a congregation he called home.
He's just involved. I mean, he would come to Mass. He would be involved in prayer groups. He would coach, just had a lot of friends, just a lovely, lovely man.
Dina Eckert, 57, passed away hours after the shooting. Her cousin says she fought hard, fitting for the family's fierce protector.
She never, ever had anything bad to say about anybody. So to see this happen to her and her being taken from us, it's just not fair. And it doesn't make sense.
Juliana Farmer, 45, who friends said had a grandchild on the way. We've seen an outpouring of love online for the woman we're told just moved here weeks ago. And Jim Tutt, 64, a colleague of developer Joseph Waldman, who'd visited the bank many times, says they talked just as much about family as business.
He was he was 60 in his 60s. He was young. He was full of life. He just was a special, good person. And to see something like this happen is just breaks my heart.
He wants to rename the road to this Southwest Jefferson County development, honoring Jim's work and life and the path forward for Louisville, a city mourning and missing these 5 souls.
You know, Doug, I spoke to Waldman this afternoon. He said his company, Highgates Development, plans to work with Metro Council to rename that road. When people drive down it, he wants them to remember Jim and what our community has been going through this week.
Very fitting honor. Thank you very much, Grace. Also in today's update from the news conference, Louisville Metro Police released new details on the gunman identified as 25-year-old Connor Sturgeon, who lived in the Camp Taylor area. Interim Police Chief Jackie Gwen Villaruel did confirm that he was a current employee, despite some reports that he was on his way to being fired by Old National Bank. Travis Breeze is here now with more on the shooter's background and where the investigation stands. Travis?
Doug, at 3 o'clock this afternoon, we got the official death notice from the county coroner's office. Connor Sturgeon died from multiple gunshot wounds. LMPD officers were dispatched to Old National Bank at 8:38, and we just saw the body camera timeline saying that they entered the building and saw him down at 8:45. Police released more information about the signs he gave prior to the shooting and what may have indicated that he had the potential and the desire to kill 5 people.
We have also learned that he purchased the weapon used in this tragic incident on yesterday, on April the 4th. He purchased the weapon legally from one of the local dealerships here in Louisville.
The headline Tuesday, 25-year-old Connor Sturgeon legally purchased an AR-15 at one of the gun stores here in Louisville 6 days before walking into Old National Bank and killing 5 coworkers. During a press conference Tuesday, police confirmed they did obtain evidence while searching his house, but would not go into specifics.
We have executed a search warrant on his residence, and we have recovered items. And we cannot get into specific details on what we recover at this time because, again, the investigation is ongoing.
The district court office still does not have a public search warrant to share with WHAS. The scene at Sturgeon's house was calm Tuesday, with neighbors telling us no one had gone in or out since the sweep on Monday. New Albany Floyd County Schools confirming that Connor Sturgeon was a 2016 graduate of Floyd Central High School and that his father, Todd, was the basketball coach for a time.
We know this shooter purchased an AR-15 rifle on April 4th. We know he left a note. We know he texted or called at least one person to let them know he was suicidal and contemplating harm.
Mr. Sturgeon being an employee at the bank, there is some level of tie between the two parties, but we're still waiting for a clear motive to be given by law enforcement. Also waiting to see if the county coroner or the state medical examiner have any additional information to release in this case. Doug?
Travis, thank you. As you have heard people say over and over, Louisville comes together in times of crisis. We are a big, small town here. Many of you are probably wondering, what can I do to help? One way to help is to give blood.
For those of you who are looking to take action right now, to show your support for the first responders who are trying to save lives, and for the victims of gun violence, one great way to do that is to donate blood.
U of L Dr. Jason Smith said that they used 170 units of blood to treat victims. He says that far outpaces what their hospital capacity is in Louisville, and he credited the American Red Cross for getting them extra blood they used to save lives. If you donate, head to redcrossblood.org.